Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Naughty Neighbours. First up today we have the Stank Goblin Next Door. Particular Agency 246. I looked at the title before I started recording, but when I sat down there, I was like, oh right, that one. Here we go. I live in an apartment, and have a next-door neighbour who has been a constant problem for 6 years. She's a multitasking menace who cannot go for more than a couple of months before she's affecting my household again. It started with her dog. She would leave for days at a time, leaving the poor guy alone with no outside access. I don't know what she did about food and water, and he would bark non-stop. Eventually we, the other neighbours, and I were able to get her to rehome him, but it took 2 years. Oh, poor guy. Then she decided to have her daughter and daughter's boyfriend live with her, which would be fine, except the boyfriend is a twice-convicted child molester who isn't legally permitted to be on the grounds. I've photographed their car every morning when taking my own dog for a walk, and we got rid of them, but not her. Then she took on this 23 male with disabling autism and has been completely using him for his disability benefits, keeping him in squalor. He doesn't have anything besides a mattress on the floor, no place for his clothes, Xbox and TV on the floor, trash everywhere. His clothing and body are rarely ever clean. This young guy is really sweet. He just wants to play his games and visit his boyfriend. But she won't allow him to have any real connection with the boyfriend, makes fun of him for being gay, tries very hard to keep him inside, and doesn't want him to have any kind of reasonable life at all. My other neighbour and I have tried to help him, but the state won't do anything. They didn't believe him when he told them what's been happening. They believe his abuser instead, no matter that not only have we two talked to them, her own mother talked to them. She's not his guardian, we checked on that, but she is his payee. She gives him $20 a week and spends the rest on her nails, getting new clothing, and her new car payment. Her mother told us about this. She decided to fall in love with a horrific alcoholic man whom she moved into the home. He's hit her and the young man and harassed me for months. One day he harassed me in our shared back porch area, while I was already on the phone with our landlord for another reason. And she heard the whole thing and finally believed me, and kicked him off the property. And she insists that the closest parking space is hers, and for a while had her family members harass anyone who parked there, even though there are no assigned spots. I finally broke down and bought some security cameras for my door and windows. 2 of my neighbours joined me in this, and we all share our accounts. And all of a sudden, all the harassment stopped dead. Abusers hate being on cam. Recently, she was caught on camera stealing laundry out of the laundry room. They're finally evicting her. She will probably try to stay until the sheriff throws her out, but at least there's an end in sight. All that's left now is her stank. She is horrifically dirty. Her home smells like cat pee, diarrhea, and rotting wet garbage. The stank comes into my home from the kitchen sink, since the plumbing is connected, in such a way that her foul odor fills my home too. And I don't know how to stop it. I've put bleach down the drain, covered the drains, air freshener by the sink, but it just smells like perfumed stank instead. I have many other stories about her, but these are the highlights. If anyone has any recommendations for keeping the stank out for the duration of her tenancy, I would love to hear. Thanks for listening. I'm just so over it. I'm planning to move out of state in the next 12 months. Hopefully she'll be gone sooner than that, so I can at least enjoy my home a little bit before I go. And story number 2 is Neighbour Thinks I'm in the Wrong for Pointing Their Flaws Out by Sisters at War. The confrontation was when they were walking their dogs in a nearby park, where it says, by the order of the city council, all dogs must be on leash, dog droppings to be picked up by owner. Or something of that effect. It is actually written all caps. FYI, all dogs in this scenario are small breeds, not instantly intimidating kinds. I was also passing by, not in the park but very near it, with my dogs. They were on leash, but got a little defensive because the neighbor's dog started barking and charging at them without any restrainer. They had harnesses on, but no leash. The neighbor wasn't looking at what the dogs were doing at first. I yelled out, "Could you control your dog? Do you have your leash? Could you put your leash on your dog?" Still ignorance from the owner. The dogs were getting closer. I couldn't move because my dogs are frozen in place. When the owner finally noticed, she called them, to no avail. She ran to catch one of the dogs and held onto the harness so it couldn't move any closer. I kept saying, "You can't have your dogs roam like that. This is not a leash-free park." And then the owner said, "Oh, but every other day I see many people here with..." All this time her dogs were still barking and showed no sign of stopping. The argument went on for a bit, but I just kept repeating to them, "There's a sign. I've called the council for you and on you before. The sign says you should have a leash. Why don't you at least carry it? You mentioned other people in this park. I've also called them out and the council on them." But the neighbor just goes, "Sorry, couldn't hear you over the barking." So I just said, "Ugh," and walked away. Because that's the problem I'm talking to you about in the first place. My dogs calmed down enough by this point so I could move, but not until one more pointing at the sign and looking back at her to say, "Sign?" one last time. She said, I know, okay." And we went our separate ways. I saw her again when I reached my house, because her house is right across, and she did have leashes then, so why not when I asked? Yes, we have history. As I've said, I have reported her treatment of the dogs to the council and local animal control. I have tried talking to her, but once I heard from animal control that they pretended not to understand English. She never has a problem talking to me, though. To avoid fines, I thought we had agreed mutually to live and let live, avoid each other when walking. Unfortunately, she lives right across the street, and yes, sometimes our walking schedules overlap. I was shocked she didn't avoid us, made me wonder if she'd forgotten me or us altogether after all these years. I also have to admit I didn't avoid her and the dogs early enough, because the side of the park I was walking has tall bushy trees and the view was obstructed. I thought she was leaving the other way, so I thought okay. But no. It really felt like she was putting me on the spot. Although there was no one else apart from some young kids doing bike rounds in the distance. This park is very hard to avoid on walks, and it has been the bane of my existence ever since moving to this area. Because no one seems to respect that there is literally an off-leash dog exercise area, very good quality, just 5 more minutes of walk from this park. I want to let my dogs touch grass, but not meet overly excited retrievers all the time. But I think I may be pinned as a neighborhood Karen for calling these owners out. And that may be why she kept saying, "But other people BS." And maybe that's why she thinks her actions are justified, I don't know. I haven't had another interaction with her since, I hope not to. It was more of a vent, but I would appreciate advice. I didn't have a cell phone on me while the conversation was happening, so I couldn't record or take a photo. Also, she's freaked out on me before when I whipped up my camera phone, so I don't know. She seems like bad news overall. Thanks for listening. You are justified in having issue with her if she's not obeying the rules properly. You're not going to change her mind, though, so I wouldn't bother confronting her directly anymore. Don't even see the point of whipping out your phone because it's just going to antagonize her. Unless you can do it surreptitiously, and then just report her to the relevant authorities. That's really your only recourse here. Anything else, it's just going to cause unneeded conflict, and the important thing is it's going to stress you out, because she clearly doesn't care. Don't do that to yourself. Just report, and don't engage. And story number 3 is AITA for sending a long letter back to my new neighbours after they told me to keep the noise down for their baby that they didn't have yet. That's some powerful sperm. We never received a complaint from the neighbours below us, even though she runs and plays and makes noise and laughs and throws toys all the time. I play music when I vacuum and I make dinner. Normal life stuff. Last week a couple moved in next door, and instead of knocking on the door and meeting us, they shoved a letter under our door. It was typed and polite, but said in effect, "Neighbours, we're having a baby at the end of the month, so please keep the noise down." After that, I wrote them a letter. You could say it was long. I congratulated them. Good job in that shagging you did. Gave them both our phone numbers. Ooh, no, don't do that. Said we would be careful. But I also told them the truth. We've lived here for 3 years with no complaints, and I would prefer if they spoke to me first instead of immediately sending a letter. And I would not be halting my life because they're having a baby. Exactly, why should you pay for their mistakes? I even tried a joke at the end that they should text me, "Hey, baby's sleeping, would you mind not so much?" But here's the catch. I'm a black woman. I mean, obviously not me, but the person that wrote the story. Okay, anyway, onward. I'm a black woman. I've encountered a lot of racism and prejudice since moving to California. I just had to acknowledge... Okay. I had to acknowledge how ludicrous it was me saying that. A lot of the Hispanic women in my area have treated me like crap because they've never even bothered to speak to me. I think their children have been conditioned to judge my daughter the same way they judge me. So when these people came barging into our lives already with their demands, I got defensive. It was a reflex. Gotta be honest with you, the letter through the door without even speaking to you, that's actually kind of rude. The same thing happening all over again. Now I feel bad. Part of me thinks I was within my rights. No reason to apologize for being respectful but firm. Another part of me thinks that my response was petty, defensive, maybe even passive-aggressive, so am I in the wrong for not just saying, "Okay, we'll be quiet"? Edit for clarification, since a few people asked for more context. Hey everyone, just wanted to clarify a few things since some folks have asked for more context. When my neighbors first moved in, they sent me a letter on their very first night telling me to turn down my black people music. You should have led with that, they're definitely racist. That's why I found their second letter about the baby to be a bit passive-aggressive. For some background, my daughter plays with her toys after school, usually around 3 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. She's 6 years old, she has ADHD, and makes typical noise you'd expect from a kid. But we're not throwing parties or blasting music late at night. My wife is Mexican, and some of her family actually live nearby. Unfortunately, they've shown some prejudice and discrimination toward me and my daughter as well, which adds to the existing tension in our building. These new neighbors only speak Spanish, and instead of talking to me directly, they choose to gossip about me to others, including my wife, who has to translate their insults. It seems like they only send these kinds of letters to me and no one else. I'm not trying to make this all about racism, could be homophobia as well, so, you know. But I do feel like there's some racial tension involved. I just wanted to explain why I didn't appreciate receiving multiple letters from them in their first week there. I didn't intend for this post to go viral, I just genuinely wanted to know if I was in the wrong for responding. I am more than happy to clarify anything else in the comments if anyone has any specific questions. I don't think you were in the wrong, I really, really don't. The first letter alone is a problem. We could put that down to ignorance if we were being generous, but I'm honestly not willing to be generous after the second letter. No, these are very, very rude people, and your response was to the point, it was polite, and it was a little bit of a dose of reality that I think they needed. Oftentimes, some people have their kids, they raise their kids, they get on with life, they do their best not to cause problems for anyone else. Then there's pricks like these, who think because they've had kids that they're special and the world should then revolve around them. That's 100% what you're dealing with here. No, you shouldn't have to make accommodations for them. It would be different if you were having like loud parties well into the night, which of course you don't seem to be doing. You're just making normal life noises at very reasonable times of the day. So no, I really don't think you're in the wrong. I'd keep on as you're keeping on. And if they do continue the harassment, because I've got a feeling that this is early stages of harassment, save all the letters, document everything. You might want to get like a Ring doorbell or something if it's permissible where you live, just in case. I hope it works out for you, and that maybe they're just very silly, ignorant people, and they settle down after a while. But, my heavens, that really is weird. Both those letters, oh dear. Okay, story number 4 is Neighbour Keeps Demanding Street Parking as Their Personal Spot, by Platypus 556. Started last year on Thanksgiving. My husband and I are currently staying in my childhood home with my parents while we save up for a house and hope to move in next year. I hope that goes well for you. We live in a normal suburban neighborhood with private driveways and street parking. My husband and I both park on the street on both sides of the driveway. I always have since I was 17. Neighbor texted my father... Never let the neighbors have your contact details. Neighbor texted my father asking for us to move our car so their family can park there. How about no? We unfortunately had both keys to the car and left to see family on Thanksgiving, so we couldn't. Fast forward to spring this year. They text my dad asking us to keep our dogs in so they can do a meet and greet with a puppy. Again, how about no? Us trying to be nice neighbors, leave them in for an hour while they do the meet and greet and move on. A couple of weeks ago, neighbor texts... Oh, they love texting, don't they? Neighbor texts us, they're getting rid of their dog and our dogs won't be barking at theirs anymore. Which was obnoxious in my opinion. Yes, my dogs bark. We've been actively working on training, but they're dogs, and we try to bring them in ASAP when they're being annoying. Unfortunately, no one does the same for the neighbors. There are also 3 terriers, and their kids have traumatized our dogs by charging at the fence, screaming, so they're highly reactive to them now, while we desensitize them. On top of that text, they told my father, "From now on we'll be parking where your son-in-law parks because I need to rotate cars so the battery doesn't die." Not touching that one. Fine. Street parking is free for all. And if they've parked there, we park somewhere else, no biggie. We also will do our best to avoid it as much as possible, but if we have to, we will park there for whatever reason. Park there more. Our cars move at maximum 1 time a day, so it's not sitting for days at a time. Last Saturday I had to park there because there wasn't parking in front of my house. Our neighbor's wife leaves and tells my husband she's leaving. "You need to move your car. My husband needs to park there, and you have enough room in front of your house." I wasn't aware she was the queen of parking, but apparently so. Myself being petty was like, no, don't do it. It's street parking and they have a 4-car driveway. They have plenty of room to park there for the day on the other side of the driveway. Car will move tomorrow when my husband goes to work. My mom's agreeing with me and is ticked off how the wife approached my husband who moved the car anyway. I want to be petty and start parking there again to prove a point. And I'm also insanely sick of the entitlement. Everyone's saying stay quiet and let them be ridiculous. We are respectful of parking, but we have to be careful when it's garbage night. We have the mechanical trucks, and they hit my car last year. I think what you're proposing, just parking there a bit more often, is probably the most gentle of ways you could stand up to them. It's not that you're going out there and causing fights. So I'd just do that. Keep on keeping on. They're the ones that have invented this problem. They really, really have. And the 5th and final story is Neighbor from Hell refuses to show professional report. Keeps demanding money, I'll bet he does, and getting aggressive. What do I do? By East Calendar 6523. Hi everyone. I need some advice on a nightmare neighbor situation I've been dealing with in Malta. It has gotten to the point where I'm constantly anxious and just want him out of my life. A few days ago our neighbor, John, bloody Johns, too many of them, started claiming there was a water leak from our maisonette, causing a crack in his garage wall. He keeps demanding that we pay for repairs. The thing is, we had a plumber check our place by means of a water detector, confirming that there were no leaks. This is a recurring problem with him. In the past, there was a water leak into our property, not to his garage, and he immediately blamed us. It turned out the leak was coming from his side. and he ended up having to fix it himself after days of delaying the issue. Recently, he cornered me and insisted I come look at his garage. I went, and what I saw was completely different from what he was claiming. The wall was a bit damp, but not really wet. The crack he was pointing at looked like old damage, and a nearby pipe wasn't even connected to our property. The stains on the wall were clearly from a past issue, not a current one. I have photos to prove this. I told him that since the issue wasn't coming from our side, and since he was the one making the claim, he should have a professional architect contact us with a formal report. This is where he got aggressive. He became confrontational and accused us of not wanting to cooperate. He then said he would need to pay more money for his parrot to contact us, which I know is a lie. He also threatened to do the repairs himself out of his own volition, and said we should pay for the membrane. He's known for this kind of behavior, to the point where everyone in the neighborhood never wants to deal with him in any way. He has not confronted me about this situation again, but I think that he will talk to us again, and there is no reasoning with him. He will continue to insist that there is something that we have to take care of. The whole situation is extremely stressful. I feel like he's harassing us, because of the harassment, I assume, and I'm worried about what he'll do next. My questions for you are: 1. How do I deal with someone who is consistently irrational and aggressive? Do not engage. Don't even talk to them. 2. Is my strategy of communicating in writing and insisting on a professional report the right one? If you have to communicate at all, yes, and you are right to insist on proof of what he's claiming. There will be no proof because, as you've said, the problem is entirely his issue. 3. Given his history, is there anything more I can do to protect myself and my property? I say this to everyone, and it's always good advice: if you don't have cameras, get cameras. Any advice, especially from anyone with a similar experience or knowledge of Maltese law, would be a huge help. Thanks in advance. Okay. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I really appreciate you allowing me to do so. If you'd like to support the channel, you can sign up for my Patreon page, which is linked down in the description there. $1 a month, $2, $3, whatever you're comfortable supporting is appreciated and gets you early access to all the videos on Monday at once. You'll also find links to my merchandise store on Teespring, and if you have a need to contact me for anything, people have been asking a little more lately, then you can send emails to kingofthecity@gmail.com. I sometimes forget the way I do these videos now, the email isn't on the screen. Not that it mattered before, because no one actually read those. But the email used to be on the screen. So, kingofthecities@gmail.com for any business inquiries or if you have a story to send. And I'm going to skip the questions and answers of the day for a couple of weeks, simply because I'm squeezing the recording of these videos in at the end of the day for now, which is a way I can comfortably doing it. I'm not overstressing myself, don't worry. But it does mean it has to be very quickly done. Like, recording this honestly took about 25 minutes, right, which is great for recording a video start to finish. The editing probably take about the same amount of time, I think, because I just accepted an offer to produce my second audiobook. The first one is out now. It's called Chronophage. It's by an author named Brian Dale Babiak. It is up on Audible. You can get to it through Amazon as well. It was a little slow, the links going out. I did post it on Discord as soon as it came out, but I think it took a bit of time to cycle through, so it was searchable. I honestly, I shed a tear when I saw my name next to a published book up on Audible. It's been a life goal of mine to have at least one done, to know that I am good enough to do this, and as a professional. This decade I've had working on YouTube, because November will be a decade. November will be 10 years. I've learned a lot, it's taught me a lot, and it's gave me skills, and I am very appreciative of all the support I've had along the way. I'm not leaving YouTube, because I don't make much from YouTube, but I still need the money I make from YouTube. But hopefully I'm able to get books more regularly to sustain this lavish lifestyle I have of sitting on the sofa and occasionally getting up and then going out and buying groceries, then coming back and sitting on the sofa again, and then working when I'm not doing that. Most of the time working lately, but it's good work, and it's work I enjoy. If I haven't linked to the book below, yell at me and I'll remember to do it. There is also a link to the US and UK links on my Discord. I'm not sure about other Audibles, but I know that they're definitely upon there. Okay, with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves. Bye bye.